As a sociologist, I've come to see a disturbing trend in our political landscape. Partisan rigidity isn't just a behavioral issue anymore. It's become a chronic, systemic failure. It's as if our political system has developed a severe allergy to its own solutions. When the logic of the party consistently overrides the needs of the patient, that is, the public, the entire body of society suffers. Today, let us diagnose the high costs of this rigidity and explore the structural reforms we urgently need to stabilize our republic. The most immediate symptom is stagnation, what I call the frozen policy state. When politicians prioritize ideological purity over functional outcomes, the most critical organs of our society begin to fail. Take the national debt crisis. Everyone knows that addressing it requires a balanced approach, a mix of revenue changes like tax reform and expenditure adjustments like spending cuts. But in our rigid system, neither side can concede an inch of their territory without being accused of surrender by their base. This standoff creates a persistent fiscal fever that threatens the stability of our entire economy. Then there's healthcare. Both sides agree that costs are spiraling out of control, yet the partisan lens forces them into a pointless debate over who should provide the care, rather than tackling the fundamental issue of the cost of care itself. It's like two doctors arguing over which brand of medicine to use while the patient's condition worsens. The focus is on ideological victory, not on a healthy outcome for the citizen. And, of course, climate change. The transition to a new energy economy is one of the most significant technical and economic challenges of our time. It's a matter of national security and long-term prosperity. Yet, it's been tragically reframed as a culture war. This prevents the kind of serious, long-term planning and investment that any responsible nation would undertake. We're stuck in a debate about beliefs while the physical and economic realities demand action. This constant gridlock has a corrosive effect on the public psyche, leading to widespread voter cynicism. Think of it as the placebo effect in reverse. When people repeatedly see common-sense solutions thrown out for the sake of political optics and partisan point-scoring, they don't just lose interest in politics, they lose faith in the system itself. This breeds a sense of learned helplessness. Citizens start to believe that no matter who they vote for, the machine will remain broken. The gears will keep grinding, the same problems will persist, and their voice won't make a difference. This dangerous belief leads to lower civic participation, from voting to local volunteering. People simply withdraw from public life because they feel powerless. This vacuum of faith and participation creates the perfect breeding ground for a certain type of political figure. The populist disruptor who promises to burn it all down. To a public sick with cynicism, this can feel like a cure. Finally, someone who will shake things up. but without addressing the underlying structural problems. These disruptors often just introduce new toxins into the system. They might change the players, but they don't fix the broken rules of the game. To really understand how far we've drifted, let's compare the past ideal with our current reality. Historically, bipartisanship was about seeking common ground for the greater good. It was seen as a mark of mature leadership. Today, it's often condemned as a political weakness, a sign of selling out to the other side. Where did policy ideas used to come from? Ideally, from expert testimony and the real-world needs of local constituents. Now, policies are often crafted in partisan think tanks and tested with focus groups, designed not to solve a problem, but to energize a political base. The very goal of political debate has shifted. It used to be about refining a bill to build a consensus and get something passed. Now, the goal is often to create a viral moment for social media or a soundbite for a fundraising email. Performance has replaced progress. Even the nature of our electoral districts has changed. They used to be more competitive, forcing candidates to appeal to the middle to win. But through gerrymandering, many districts are now drawn to be safely partisan, meaning politicians only need to appeal to the ideological fringe of their own party to secure their seat. They have little incentive to compromise. So, what's the doctor's conclusion? We need structural intervention. This isn't about finding nicer politicians. It's about fundamentally rewiring the incentives that currently reward conflict and penalize cooperation. We need to change the system that makes bad behavior the smart political move. There are a few surgical priorities we must focus on. First, gerrymandering reform. We need to move toward independent redistricting commissions to draw fair, competitive maps. This would force politicians to once again compete for the vote of the average neighbor, not just the angry partisan at the extreme. Second, campaign finance reform. We must reduce the overwhelming influence of dark money and super PACs. This will help ensure that our representatives are accountable to their constituents, the people who actually live in their districts, not to anonymous, wealthy donors with their own agendas. And third, we must restore our civil service. We need to re-establish the norm that government, experts, the nurses, and lab techs of the state are nonpartisan professionals. Their job is to provide objective data and analysis to inform policy, not to provide political cover for the party in power. We must protect their independence and expertise. Here's the final diagnosis. Without these fundamental changes, the tragic cycle of modern tribalism will continue to weaken our republic's immune system. We must return to a political state where we can disagree on the specific prescription, but we all agree that the patient our nation deserves our best efforts to survive and thrive. If this analysis resonates with you, please consider subscribing and liking this video. Your support helps us create more content like this and grow our community. Thanks for watching.